bus wheels is rolling. There we go. You can do that. All righty. So had a good session there with the Department of Homeland Security. We're going to have Dee Dee's going to come up here in just a second and give us all the rundown on special needs transportation. And then after that, we're going to have railroad folks come in for Operation Lifesaver. I look forward to this program. Don't think that I've ever sat through one. I've heard about it, been associated with it when I worked at the railroad, never sat through the program. Some of you have, I'm sure, but I look forward to that as well. But without any further ado, if you would help me to make welcome our special needs coordinator, Miss Frida Dee Dee Hampton.
I feel like I'm back again, and Pat is spotlighting me. Why are you spotlighting me with your flashlight? I am glad to be back. I didn't mention it yesterday. This scared me really bad last year, not because I'm afraid of talking. Y'all, most of you who know me know that I don't have a problem talking, but because for all of those years I've sat back there with you. So now I've survived a year up here, and I rewrote the book. So if you're looking at the special ed section, you can say about 90% of it is new. I completely rewrote the preschool section, the special ed section, and we've added a wheelchair section. And because we've added a wheelchair section, that requires movement a little bit. So we're going to do an opening icebreaker with a little bit of movement. I know you just came back from a break, but I won't make you get up, but wave at me if you rode a school bus to school when you were in school. Pretty much all of you. LaVonna, what'd you ride, a horse? You didn't wave at me. Okay, I am also no respecter of person, age, sex, nothing. Sorry about that, LaVonna. You didn't wave at me, so did you ride a bus? She did ride a horse. Walked right into that one. I couldn't help it. All right, so how many of you have kids that are in school and riding a bus right now? Look at how much less. Okay, we'll expand that. How many of you have kids or grandkids who are in school and riding a bus right now? Not even a third of you. So I did this on purpose so we could visually see that our age group, we frequently rode the bus. That was like 100%, 98% of the way how we got there. My dad said he paid taxes so I could ride a bus and he didn't have to take me. Didn't matter that he drove past my school to go to work, but like he paid taxes, I was going to ride that school, and I was the kid that got on second. I lived out in the middle of nowhere in Jackson County, and we were an hour and a half from my house to school. So I don't have a whole lot of sympathy when you tell me your bus route's long. I lived it, survived it, but that is not the reality of where we're at, especially after COVID. Now, going back to build on that just a little bit, is when I was in school, and most likely when you were in school, if there was a special ed bus, most likely it only carried the kids who were in wheelchairs or extremely challenged physically some way. That's not our reality now. Our reality now is that if you have a SPED designation, you could end up on our buses for a number of reasons. SPED is special education. You can be special for a whole plethora of reasons, and we're going to talk about that in a little while. But let's move on to an activity, and I'm going to call out some people. I saw Roxy come in late. Are you paying attention, Roxy? I'm going to call you out, yeah. Oh, she's in the middle of business. Adam Webb, will you join me? I didn't pick on him. Toby, Nicole, and I said somebody else. Who did I say? Oh, no, Kayla. You're fine. You're fine, Rox. Stay where you're at. Kayla. I need Kayla Riley. So what I have, come on, join me up here. Nicole, I'm going to put you and Adam together as a pair. Stand right there at the corner of the screen. and I'm going to put Kayla and Toby together as a pair. And what you have here is a bunch of experience and not experience on special ed. Kayla, how many years you been working for us? Kayla's going on 4 years of working for us. Toby, how long you been with us? Third year, and they've been in special ed all the time, right? Nothing else, just special ed. Now, over there on that side, far, far away, is our new people. Adam's new this past year. Adam just started with us. We didn't scare him off. He came back for a second year. Nicole, how long have you been with us? Nicole's been with us 3 years. On this side, we have the special ed department. On this side, we have the regular ed department and the field trip people. How many of you run field trips? Now, all of you that, keep them up. Now, all of you that run field trips, how many run special ed field trips? Yeah. See, that cuts you in half. Well, what I found out this year is we may need a little education on wheelchairs. So, Adam, you're going to be the wheelchair. You're going to stand toward the front of the stage. I don't care how you stand. You're just going to be a wheelchair. Nicole is going to guide you into your spot on the ramp of the bus. This is the bus. We're going to pretend like this is the bus, and this is the ramp. I'm going to be the ramp guide. See that right there? See? You're going to guide Adam onto the bus ramp to load him onto the bus. Going. Back him in. Whoop. Nice. Are you done? You can be done. You can be done. All right. Now you can step aside, and we're going to ask the experienced people, Toby and Kayla. Y'all figure out who's going to be in the chair and who's going to be guiding. One of you get the other. Get them all the way loaded.
You're going to lock your wheels, both sides. Good job. And then you are done.
Correct. Very good. You can stand to the side. Give them a hand clap. You guys are good. Thank you. You guys are good. You good. Go ahead. I wanted to bring that up because this year as I traveled around, I'm killing Marshall. I'll go back to the podium, Marshall. I'll go back and I'll stand still. I'll even hold on so that I don't leave. This year, as I was traveling around and doing special ed events with our special ed departments, and I found many of our not regular drivers and some of our regular drivers were not using proper procedure loading wheelchairs. That wheelchair should always have the student's back toward the bus. Anybody know why? To keep the weight closest to the hinge on the ramp. If you don't keep that weight closest to the hinge and you have that weight on the front, they could flip off, they could turn over. It also could jam your equipment. This is a perfect opportunity for us to bring up, if you're ever on a field trip and you have no knowledge of the equipment that you're working, what should you do? Ask. It's amazing. I even do a phone a friend. Mark does phone a friend too. You call us and your ramp is stuck and you can't get something to work on that bus you've been assigned to, or you drove it to the school and suddenly something don't work. Guess what you can do? You can call me, text me, FaceTime me. Mark does the same thing. We have done FaceTime repairs and helped you work through things from there. So you are never more than a phone call away from an answer. So just going willy-nilly is not safe. One of the things that I saw this year is somebody had pulled a student straight in. All of their weight was on the loose end of the ramp away from the bus. It was the most unsafe, scared me to death. I had to address it. We addressed it. We rolled on. But that brought me to educating everybody. If you see it and it's unsafe, what should you do? You stop and talk, tell them. Like, we're a team. We're in this alone. If you see an unsafe situation and you walk away from it, it makes you part of the problem. We're not problem people. We're problem solvers. You know why I know that? Because we survived traffic in Laurel County last year. Everything was a problem in traffic last year, correct? So you are problem solvers, and we work together as a team to do that. And listen, it takes a team. We're going to keep our kids safe. So let's ask another question. There are a certain number of connections when you get that student in the bus. How many points of connection, straps, tie downs, are on a wheelchair to connect them to a bus? Oh, Nicole, I put her on the weak side, and she's coming out with strong answers, and some of my sped people missed it. Oh, so 5 points of connection. You have your 4 on the floor connected to each wheel of the wheelchair, and then you have what going across your shoulder? Seatbelt. 5 points of connection. If you are missing any of those 5 points of connection, you are leaving that child in an unsafe situation. One thing that's really easy to forget with wheelchairs is to lock both wheels. You know what happens if you don't lock both wheels? Hey, but look, I can still touch it. But that kid can spin. I saw with my own eyes somebody done that this year, and the kids spun while they were on the ramp, so that left them sitting at an angle on the ramp. That is not a safe situation. Now, some of y'all are sitting here saying, that'll never happen to me. I'll never drive a sped bus. You would be surprised at what happens when you get old or get changed or get moved or your route disappears. So, I need you to be educated and help me to keep my eyes open for safe and unsafe situations when you're out at your schools and in your field trips and in your locations. Teamwork? All right. Made myself a note because I forget. Position on the ramp. Mark and I do. Oh, look, we covered all that. Was nice of me. I intended on not doing anything with preschool today except hitting the highlights and rolling on. However, I looked at the crowd today, and we have a high number of people that were not here yesterday. So I really need to touch base with some of the important things that we talked about yesterday. We talked about the new policy with the 403, where you call in and you, from the time that student is a 403, then you go back and do a second attempt. I need the new people that weren't here yesterday to understand that if you have a preschool student that is a 403, you 100% have to keep your preschool monitor with you. You can't be rolling around without a monitor in that situation. As soon as you call in to Rob and let him know, or whoever's doing dispatch, and let him know that you have a 403, please let them know you have a preschool monitor on there with you, because that monitor will also need to be returned to home. Nicole brought up the fact that maybe your monitor doesn't have a way to connect with their adult people, and then it would just be weird that you're driving around with them for extra time. If that is the situation and they don't have a cell phone to make that connection, we can do that too from dispatch, but we just need to know that information if that's okay with you. I popped off that we trained over 140 people yesterday, but then I got it in my mind that I really wanted to look that hard number up, and it scared me. So yesterday I said we trained over 140, true, and that 75 would be fine, true. 175 would be fine, true. However, I found out we trained 175 people last year. I had 175 applications. That was the paid and the volunteer together. They're about half and half. There was no real designation between half and half. Of that 175, remember I said I fired 3, and I had 6, only 6 out of 175 that didn't complete the process. And that was on them. It wasn't on us. It wasn't anything we did. That was on the student and the student's family. So 175 processed applications. I will happily do over 200 this year if you will partner with me, please, and get those designated early. Let me tell you, I really didn't go into this yesterday, but this is why I need that early designation of your preschool monitor, that early paperwork to get that paperwork out to them and get those applications back. Because of the 170, we'll go 160. Of the 160 that got trained, I we only trained about 75 of those from the beginning. Doesn't sound bad. Just go back and train the others. Except the 75, I trained in groups of 25 at a time. I had help from the training department training those groups of 25 at a time. It is an amazing, I had John done a lot of training, and Rudder. So I had a lot of help then early. Beyond that, I went out 9 million times to train 2 kids at a time, or 1 kid at a time, or go to North High to find out the kids at CFI. The rest of those, I literally trained 1 and 2 at a time. I was excited when I got 4 or 5. So if you can help me use my resources to the best of my ability, it gives me more free time to give you better service instead of y'all screaming about not knowing what's going on. I done everything I could last year to keep up and was about dead training those 1 or 2 kids at a time. I want every school, every driver to have a monitor, I don't care if it's paid or volunteer, and a backup monitor for when they're absent. Because it's not if they will be absent, it is guaranteed they will be absent at some point. So those are things that I'm going to chase you. Some of those people that were at those schools that I had trouble with are here today, but you weren't here yesterday. I need you to know I'm going to be prompt and upfront calling you this year. I'm not going to make 4 or 5 phone calls, because if you don't make a phone call, if you don't actively do it yourself, I'm going to pick a kid off your bus with the help of your principal at that elementary school, and it may not be somebody that you want to be your monitor. But I'm not dragging my feet and getting stuck in that mud again. Now, we've worked on the process. We're 1,000 times better. I fussed at you, but I'm just trying to encourage you. But the overall approval of the process is so much better. This year, I did get complaints on a few bus drivers. And you know what I was able to say? I was able to give them answers because I had answers. I knew what they were supposed to be getting. I'd seen their timesheet. I knew who their driver was. Because I have access to that information and it's all on a sheet, I can quickly do that. How many of you have, I'll change gears because I sound like I'm fussy at you. Sorry, didn't mean to be fussy. Let's change gears. How many of you have monitors that you're pretty sure are going to be returning to your bus? Yeah, those are the ones we want to hit first, especially those paid monitors. It's a smaller pack of paper. We do less with them. It's less on everybody. Every monitor every year gets training, and every monitor every year has to have parent permission to be a monitor. But those are small things, okay? Rolling through, rolling. We're training early. We touched on this a little bit yesterday, that when we train your monitors, we don't just roll through information. We roll through information that should help you. So let's make sure we're all on the same page. Your preschool monitor is for the whole bus or the preschooler? Your preschooler only. When you put that responsibility on your preschool monitor, it won't be long until there's chaos in your bus. Now, I had one that was 11th grade, but I had trained her since she was in 6th grade, and she might have took it on herself to control the back, and I just didn't say nothing because she had it under control. But she was my preschool monitor, and that's what I paid her for. I invested 5 years of teaching her the right way. If you're not paying attention to what your preschool monitor's doing, you might be part of the problem. I wondered about 2 of the 3 that we fired. I wondered if anybody noticed that those kids were wrestling in that seat. I get it that we have taller seats. That preschooler you can't see, but that middle school, high school boy, you couldn't see them in that seat being crazy. So those are things that we still, just because they're your monitor does not mean you get to ignore what's going on in that situation. You drivers have to be aware of what's going on in your mirrors. I've been there and done that. Sometimes it's a circus. Sometimes you have to bring your preschool monitor up closer just so you can keep an eye on all of them. I've been there. Also during training, we teach them how to use the radio and the brake, and the brake. Because there is always the possibility that you all fall over dead. not just you old people, but like any of us. You know, there's so much that goes on in the world. I don't want them to be willy-nilly. Now, some of them are very proactive, and you can tell they're thinkers, and they've already been thinking about that. But then I might scare some of your kids, and they might ask you questions. If they ask you about the radio, please don't put them off. Let them touch it. Let them feel it. We talked to them about holding the button and breathing for a second before they start talking. One young lady told me this year, well, that scares me. And I said, okay, but scared's only a lack of information. I said, so what scares you? And she said, well, how well, I don't know where we're at all the time. And that's exactly how she said it. And I said, guess what? I said, your bus is equipped with a wonderful Zonar system, so I can find you. You just have to tell me your bus number. She said, what if I forget? Listen, this kid was in high school. She was like 10th grade. I was like, okay, I think you might not have been out of your house very much, but did you know your bus number is on your bus? And I said, you can see it in that front mirror. She came back to me later and said, hey, I found that bus number. I guess she'd just been getting on because it was parked in the same place. I don't even know. So, but we teach them that if you are unconscious, not responding, that they can pull that emergency brake. How many of you in this room have pulled the emergency brake while driving? I challenge you in a safe location to do that, because you need to know what that feels like. The kids are always afraid, especially because they're going to be standing beside of you, that it's going to sling you through the window. It will not sling you through the window. We do not let David Ramsey teach that because he likes to do it to the extreme. But you do 35 or 40 and pull that brake, and it does not sling you. It slowly applies a brake that will stop you. Now, did you have that assumption? Because that's what the kids think. So, you don't do that. I challenge you to do that. It's not going to hurt your transmission. How many of us were afraid it was going to hurt our transmission like our cars? It is not like your car, okay? Try that out. Now, Mark, I don't think I can break anything, can I? Didn't cause you problems, did I? I have done it in my own bus. We done it in training, but I've also done it in my own bus. So in the new training for our people, not just for trainers. Okay, so this shows your age and how long ago you've been trained. It's been 20 years since I've been trained. Been driving 20 years. And in those 20 years, I can mark 4 different shifts in training. And let's just say I didn't even get a person. I was given 3 3-inch, 3-ring binders and sat in a room with videotapes for 3 days. All the 3s is why I remember it. I sat in a room, watched videos, and took tests for 3 days. After that test, they put me on one bus style, and we drove 15 hours before I was able to go take a test. That was it. Now, it was hot, and it was the summer, but 15 hours. Now, we done a little bit of cone work. Back then, we also, even in my test, I lined up something wrong, and I knew I had enough points. By that point, I was going to pass, and that cone was only worth 2 points. So in the test, I made the conscious decision to just flatten it and go on. So, but that was a long time ago. So John just brought up that the new people training that are coming through training right now will actually do that in their training. So if you want somebody to hold your hand, the training department is available. So we'll hold your hand and do that with you if you would like. It is a mind over matter moment, though. I have to be honest. Even in our trainers training, it was a mind over matter moment because I wasn't familiar with that parking lot, I think. We're going to look at page 69 for a second while we're talking about preschool monitors. I encourage you to check out 34, 35, 33, 34, 35, I don't know, somewhere through there. It's all pretty much new material. So if you'll notice on this student monitor, it looks similar to yours at the top. Let's talk about timing. The preschool monitor does not get a guaranteed 4 hours or 4.25 hours like you do. You will take that preschool monitor's time from the time they get their preschool student until the time they get to home or to the school with that student. With that being said, if it is 5 minutes, please use your wisdom and bump it to the 15. It would be pointless. But I guarantee that even the students that are getting 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon are excited when they get the check, because that's money they didn't earn when they rode the bus the last week without the preschool monitor. They 100% may need help with this, and especially when it comes to the adjusting 15-minute part. If you need a visual aid, I have a calendar, not a calendar, but I have a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet, I have a handout with clocks on it that tells you exactly how to bump your time to the next 15 so that they don't get cheated. We want to give them credit for the fact, and listen, some of them are earning it. So last year's kids that rolled into preschool and this year's kids that rolled into kindergarten are your 2020 kids, your COVID kids, your didn't socialize for 2 years kids. So they need a little work on the outside. These preschool monitors may be definitely earning it. So help them with that time, especially some of them will get it great. Some of them we may have to work on. Some of them we may have to hold their hands. This middle section, there are 3 slots because I really like to keep no more than 3 kids with each preschool monitor. Sometimes, occasionally, you will have more than that, and we'll try to work on that. So last year, I only had 2 buses for a short period of time that had more than that on their preschool monitors that were being monitored by students. If you'll notice, there's a slot for the name. I do need the student's name, and I do need you to mark the student's attendance. At the bottom, there are 3 lines. One of them says student monitor. The other one says, can we scroll down, Marshall? To the bottom? Can I see the bottom? One of them says student signature, one of them says driver's signature, and one of them in red says supervisor's signature. If you'll try to get your name on the right line and the kid's name on the right line, and then we can have everybody's name on the right line, if you don't make sure those are signed when they're turned in, guess who has to go run that kid down? I do. And I like doing that as much as I like training one preschool monitor at a time 5 million times. I don't like to have to do that. So please help me get those signatures on there. Pop quiz time. When should preschool monitor timesheets be turned in? Friday. I know some of you are turning them in the wrong place. It requires you to go to 2 buildings on the bus lot. Please allow yourself time to bring the preschool monitors to me. I have a slot on the door, and your timesheet goes to Marshall. And if you get lost, sometimes I'll take your timesheet to Marshall when you forget. Yes, any questions about preschool monitors? Preschool in general? I do have the date. It's about 3 weeks in. I'm very adamant about us getting very quickly on assigning preschool monitors and getting paperwork out. As soon as school starts, we'll have that available and ready. I started to say, that's where I am too. So Pat brought up the question, how do you choose a preschool monitor? Listen, if you've been on your route for more than a couple weeks, you know who you don't want, right? Like, y'all scratching your head about who you want, but like, you know who you don't want. I drove the same route for a little over 10 years, and what I found was that pretty quickly in that first couple weeks who's taking care of business, who's following the rules, who's not causing you to have to call them down all the time. Now, when you announce we think we're getting preschool monitors. I always add think because, like, I guarantee. Is anybody interested? Because we're going to say think because I don't necessarily always get all those lists, and those change throughout the year. So if a preschooler starts school and for whatever reason drops out, they pick up another student and roll on. So your students could change all year long. Now, with my preschool monitors, I announce I need to know the names of whoever wants to participate. If you're over 16, I can pay you. If you're under 16, it'd have to be a volunteer. 100%, some of the kids that you do not want will want the money. So you always start with, we may have kids, and I can't guarantee if I can be hired. Now, we can weed those out. If you have concern about a kid that turned in their application, please let me know, because I'll even take the monkey off your back and disqualify them from my desk, because we don't want to get in spots where we have trouble or have kids causing more trouble than being helpful, okay? I'll take that monkey. I've done it this year. I'll do it again. Any more questions? Remember, priority on high school and middle school first. Don't come to me and tell me you ain't got nobody the first day of school. You ain't even seen all your kids yet. All you new people that are going out, this is one of those funny tricks that they played on me the first day of school in Clark County. They sent me on a bus. Listen, I was out in the middle of nowhere going toward Paris, big yellow bus. They say, oh, you're going to pick up these kids. You're going to bring them to school. It's going to be a whole bus load. I had 10. I was celebrating. I was like, I only had 10 kids. Listen, I go back that afternoon. They were standing in the globs out there. I had every seat with 2 and 3 kids to it. So don't get tricked. That first day, you ain't seen all your friends. In fact, the first couple days, it usually doesn't roll over into Monday. All right, any more preschool comments or questions? Yes. So you have permission to change your route to pick up your monitor first. And, like, that's just part, were they very far apart? I know, that's why you go get that monitor first. You go get that monitor first. Yeah. And it's fine to go get your preschool monitor first. I drove out behind the park, and my area was just a big bunch of circles. So, like, it wasn't a big deal for me. I just drove around the block another time. Every sub that ever drove for me got lost, and they just kept driving around the block until all the kids got off. So some of you are in areas. Marshall used to do that. Marshall would sub for me every now and then. He's like, I hate it, your route, because, like, it's just circles. It is. It was a big bunch of circles. Like, you just go around again. Somebody will get off eventually. But some of you are in spots where you have to put more thought into that, okay? So more thought into that means that if your preschool monitor is first, you need to pick them up first. And that could be the beginning of your route. I know Pat changes his whole route up. He's got a special preschooler. So his even has a harness to go with his. Brings us to I forgot where I was going. I lost track. Brings us to a situation that is not frequent, but is part of preschool. Preschool falls under a little bit of different regulations than just straight up special ed. So because they're coming into the school system, sometimes they can have an IEP that puts them in a harness on a big bus. I invested in a new style of harness, so they're not wearing the traditional one. It's more car seat style. But Pat won the prize. He got bonus twins, and both of them were in the harness. It complicates. And then he also had to go get his monitors before his preschoolers. Because, What? Huh? I can tell it's Chris, but I can't see Chris. Oh, there he is. There he is. See, the back row. Did you? Yeah, it does get better. Only Pat got his at 3 years old, so guess what? He gets them for a second year at 4 years old. He's got a bonus. Any questions about harnesses? All right. We're going to flip over one more page and look at something that we've really not talked about yet, and this would be your write-up form. Can preschoolers be wrote up? Yes. Say it with me. Say yes. Can special needs students be wrote up? Yes. Can special needs students on the short bus be wrote up? Yes. Can special needs students on the big bus be wrote up? And please, dear God, write up all of your problem kids on the big bus. So this is what it is. We are in a very data-driven society. We just can't look at your problem student and say, that's a problem student. Brian Baker, where are you at? What's that kid's name? Oh, no, we can't do that. That would be confidentiality. Brian had this special young lady. He has tried to give me her all year long. He has tried really super hard, but we are in a data-driven society, and the school system is very data-driven. Now, for us, what that means is sometimes we are frustrated and we want the principal to act now and do something. But instead of acting now, they go, we don't have any data that that's a problem. Well, this is our proof that we said that there was a problem. This is our proof, and I pull this up all the time. When I go into an IEP meeting, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why I do that in a minute, but when I go into an IEP meeting, I'll whip up my list and tell exactly what the kid got wrote up for, what the principal did, because like sometimes if it's just a low-key event, they'll kind of like just do a discussion with them, and then it turns into a bigger event. Craig had one of those. Like, the principal was like, I know he's having trouble in school, he's having trouble in class, but I don't have enough data. And what I found out when I talked to Craig, because Craig came in to complain about the kid, which is huge, that Craig had been having problems for months. But Craig was taking care of his problem and not recording it. So because there was no data, we got stuck with that kid for another 6 weeks when we could have took care of it before. Your write-ups are important and are part of the process that helps us get the students the help and the situation they need. Yes, Brian? Oh, it was a lot of data. I didn't have time to give that much data. It was a safety issue. Yes. The lack of communication. I know. You write it up because it was a safety issue. And in your write-up, you say safety issue. Communication issues don't just come in the form of hearing. Sometimes it comes in the form of we have students that don't speak English. I had a student from South Middle several years ago, and God love his little heart. Like, he didn't speak any English at all. His cousin had been translating for him. His cousin got pneumonia and was at home, and I was a sub, and he couldn't tell me where he lived. Thank God, when I was able to pull over in a safe location and called the school principal, I skipped dispatch completely because none of them spoke Spanish either, and called the principal specifically. She knew exactly who I was talking about and could tell me the address. So those are that problem-solving skills that we utilize on a regular basis. Back to this. The more information you can give us, the better. Now, I don't want to know that Billy Bob was picking his nose. Like, that's too much information. But like anything pertinent, so we're going to do the date of the behavior, definitely, what bus you were on, student's first name and last name. The seat number is important for this reason. When we have to pull your video, I know exactly where to start looking in that bus if I have your seat number. If I don't, it means I look endlessly and find 12 problems to write up, and none of them were what you were giving me a write-up about. So we're going to, if you know the student grade, that's excellent. Student school, then we're going to mark, was this witness behavior or was this behavior that was somebody told you about? How did it start? How did you find out about it? What happened after you found out about it? What happened in the middle? Was it a fight? Did you have to stop the fight? Did you have to stop the bus? How did it end? Were you able to just verbally tell them to sit down and they went to where you told them? Did the SRO have to show up? I need as much of that detail as possible. Any questions about write-up forms? Anybody? Now listen, some of you are going to show up in my office or Rob's office or Marshall's office about 6 weeks after school starts, and you're going to start crying. I got this kid, he's driving me crazy. He won't stay in his seat, and he's always bouncing around from one seat to the other. Or that young lady, she's always starting a fight with somebody. She's always got a problem. It's always somebody did something to her. Well, if you've let it go on for 6 weeks, I can't perform miracles. I wish I could. But your student discipline from the beginning will set the tone for your bus. As a seasoned driver, I am terrible, horrible, very bad, mean from the get-go. Now listen, I'll still high-five you. I'll still good morning you. 100% know that calling a kid by their name disarms them and brings a new level of connection. You should know your kids' names, even on the transfer, not just the ones in trouble, but all of them. And I struggle with them transfer kids, I'd be honest. But like, if you know their name and you can call them down when they're just having a small problem, it never turns into a big problem. We have students, as nature of students are, that just need guidance and teaching. You're behind the driver's seat. You're the only adult on the bus. I need you to interact with those kids. My monitors, I'm going to pick on them tomorrow a little bit. They're not with us today. Bus drivers are in the front focusing on driving the bus. My bus monitor does not need to be sitting right behind the bus driver talking. They need to be spaced out and farther back so they can watch the student's behavior. So it's all eyes on deck. Cut them off when it's a small problem. So you're not crying in my office in 6 weeks and I have to tell you to get a grip. Because I will. I am no respecter of person. None. All right, so we're going to finish out, Marshall, on page 34. I'm going to read to you something a little boring, something we ain't done yet. Everybody yawn already. On page 34, in the blue, this is not my choice. This is a state. You can argue it till the cows come home, but it is something that we all have to abide by. We're looking at the second blue section, by the way. The 6.22 AP.1. The need for special transportation for students with disabilities must be determined by the ARC, that stands for Acceptance and Release Committee, or a 504 team stated in the student's IEP, the Individual Education Plan, or Section 504. Those are legal binding documents. One of the things that I kind of battle with frequently is that because we don't know the process, you think I'm magic. I can't assign a special ed label to anybody. I can't designate anybody special for being special. There is a committee at the school that is data-driven based. when I can take that data and sit at that table and have a conversation about that kid, we can. Toby had one last year that ended up being put off the bus. It was a special ed kid that was put off the bus because we had the data, we had the video, we had the evidence of why that kid was not safe to be on our bus. I wish that just putting them on the sped bus made everybody safe, but it doesn't. So we have to have you on big buses and little buses to understand, because some of you on the big bus have special ed kids that do not have transportation in their IEP. So they are riding, and you may or may not know that. But we have to be aware of that because it will affect how many days they can be out of school. The process is long and arduous. I started working on a kid that was on a big bus, started recording data on a big bus kid in August of last year, and it was all the way till October before they got classified with an IEP and a ARC meeting that put them on the transportation for SPED. I'm with you. It's a game plan. But like, I can't force the hand of the school. And if they're only having trouble on the bus and not in class, it makes that process even longer. Okay? If that's the case, we're going to look at figuring that process out too. We're going to flip over on page 35 and read a little more. It says, the determining factor of what qualifies the student cannot be made by simply by a few days of poor bus behavior. However, it is imperative that you record these days by doing write-ups. Those write-ups are part of the data that is reviewed when assessments are being done concerning a particular student's need for special needs services. This following list is a partial list of reasons that could be why a student is put on special transportation. They have anxiety, they have crutches, they have a wheelchair. Some seizures need to be on a special needs bus because of their severity. Behaviors, autism, in some cases, depending on the student. If the student needs trunk support for their core body, do they have braces? Some of our students have shortened days. Some of their students are elopement concerns. They want to run away. If they're wearing a harness, most of them are on our special needs buses, and some developmental delays. So it's wide. Please note that it is huge. And that is makes it hard to say cut and dry sometimes. I know sometimes you come into my office and you want me to give you an exact answer, and I can't. I apologize about that, but like sometimes we just have to wait it out and work with the principals and the schools and the teachers. Any questions about who can determine that special ed label? Yes. If they had an IEP that they were put off of your bus and onto a special needs bus, it will continue this year until there's another meeting for the ARC, acceptance or release. I have not been, that student has not been, talk to me in the break. I think I know which student you are, and I think they're still on my list. I have my master list I've been working on. I think they're still on my list. That doesn't change. Now, kids who were expelled, I always have to think about it, suspended and expelled. Kids who were expelled from school last year, it opens back up for most of them to come back in August. So if you had somebody that was expelled, put out for the year, they could come back. But IEPs and special transportation should carry over. Good question. Anybody else? I told y'all I had no problem talking. No problem. No challenges? You know it, Al? Okay, but here's one. I'll finish with this. One last question. Did you know that it is Laurel County school board policy that all Laurel County school buses All Laurel County public school buses be equipped with a working two-way radio, and that radio be on and operational at all times. Did y'all know that? Thank you. By the way, when they was looking for me yesterday, I was in the bathroom, so. Huh? I hate that noise of laying it down.
Thank you, Dee Dee, and it's glad to see you finally came out of your shell. All right. I'm just going to go because Dee Dee did mention, and it is true, we have some folks here with us today that were not here yesterday, and I want to just do a quick review on some of the items. Marshall, the seating chart slide, did you add that up? Did you, if you could? Just jumping ahead, a week from today, next Tuesday, August the 5th, we are having a school-wide rally to start the school year off. And I was trying to explain probably pretty poorly yesterday about where we're assigned seating on this. So over here on this side is the front of the arena, the part that you see when you pull up. So when we walk in, our assigned seating section is over here in 109. So that's where we need to sit when we arrive. I did have a question about buses. Again, I want all the buses sitting on your assigned ramp at 7 o'clock in the morning. Your principal may have their people there ready to load, and you may be gone by 7:15. You may be gone by 7:30. I don't know. That's the principal's call. But I don't want a school being late and it being transportation's fault. So if we are all there at 7 o'clock, which is going to be good training anyway, it's not like we're not going to be going to school in 2 days after this. So if we're there at 7 o'clock, that should be plenty of time to get all of the passengers loaded and to the Corbin Arena. Now, some schools like Keavy and Hunter Hills, that's going to be a short trip, no doubt. Hello. So other schools like Hazel Green, Colony, Johnson, Bush, it's going to be a little longer trip. Some of your schools have the high schools, South High and North High. You got 3 buses. Be good if you travel together. Obviously, try to stay together as close as you can, but just be there and be available. Principals know that the buses are going to be there, and it's their responsibility to get their people on the bus. Take your direction from the principal on your ramp. I did ask yesterday, and I'll mention that again. I know we've got somebody here today has to have the shirt on. The gray, Marshall's got his shirt on right there. Yeah, and Mr. Peters has. That's the shirt I'd like everybody to wear. If you don't have one, go see Dave Ramsey. If you don't want to wear that shirt, fine. But I'd like for everybody to wear that shirt, just so that we can be shown as transportation department. So, well, I do too, but not everybody likes ball caps. Nicole. I believe that's where we're going to be coming in, at the front where, you know how you go up, you've got the ticket office over to the left, and then you got the row of doors beyond the ticket office that goes in. I think that we'll be dropping off there, and they'll be using those main entrance doors to get in. Obviously, we'll have to probably take the bus on that lower parking lot to park our buses. That's my anticipation. Nobody's communicated that with me. I'll try to get that information between now and obviously next Tuesday so that I can put that out to you. But that's just my assumption of how it's common sense to me anyway. And so good question. So yes. The best thing to do is I seriously doubt, again, that's something that nobody has addressed to me. I would suggest that we find The first bus there after you unload, let's just take care of ourselves. Let's go down and just put our buses online. And not, we probably, so that we're not somebody walking half a mile from that far end of the parking lot, make a second row. There's going to be a few POVs there, but they'll probably park up next to the school, up next to the entry doors. And we'll need to park on the lower end down there where we have plenty of room to get turned around and come up as well. Marshall, again, I'll go over this again. Timesheets, Marshall's already got those filled out. Now, there's going to be extra run time for basically most every employee. You're going to have extra run time. You got your 4.25 hours. That's already going to be in there. Whatever your extra run time varies, just put it in there, down in the extra run time area. Some of you may have 30 minutes. Some of you may have an hour and a half. It is just going to be what it is. So just be sure you get, I want to make sure everybody gets paid for what we're supposed to be paid. So just be sure to keep up with your time. Transportation employees that's not driving a bus, we will have a bus available leaving the bus garage to go down there. You also can drive your own personal vehicle. It's not required you ride a bus. So, but we do have to be there. Sign-in starts at 8:15. And we have to be signed in and in our seats at 5 minutes till 9 is what they requested. Just getting ready to do that. Somewhere they're supposed to have posted throughout the arena QR codes. I'm imagining an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a QR code that you're supposed to go up with your telephone and sign in. I know that some of you may have some difficulty with that. And if you do, I understand. See me or any trainer, any supervisor, we'll be glad to help you. I'm also going to, just in case, because I want to make sure we all get paid, we'll have a sign-in sheet. And this is another reason that it's important that we kind of sit together, because instead of trying to have you come to a table to sign the sheet, we'll probably just pass a clipboard around our section so that everybody can sign the sheet. But I just want to make sure that we all get credit for that, okay? Any other questions on the rally? Okay. All right. And some information that I covered yesterday. Again, I'm really tickled because you know that if you have a wreck, Rob's showing up if he's at work that day. And wrecks were down to pre-COVID levels last year. We were down to 7 reportable accidents. We had been averaging anywhere between 12 and 15. So great job to all of the drivers for driving that down. What is our goal? 0, exactly. And I don't know, I'll probably have Dave, I'll work with Dave, and that will be our theme this year on safety. Goal 0. That's where you want a goose egg. Reminding ourselves of the 2 most common things that I work an accident for is, who can tell me that? Backing's one of them. Clearance is the other. That takes in 90% of the accidents I work on a regular basis. We've either backed into something because we didn't know what was back there, or we've gotten too close, we went in at a wrong angle, and we've got a clearance issue. So, but great job on driving that down by 50%. 0 is the only acceptable number on that. New trainers, Brady and Taylor, went to training school in July, so we have 2 new trainers. Give them a round of applause. So glad to have them on staff. Something that I didn't mention yesterday, but I will just briefly cover this. This will only only affect a small number of our drivers, but it affects really our whole school system. We didn't discuss anything about the effects of the tornado. Thank the Lord. The loss of life was what it was and not what it could have been. One of our own was blessed by God, I'll say, that she and her mother and their pets survived, and that's Linda Mold. I'm tickled to death to be able to sit here and look at her and know that her life is being rebuilt. We have hundreds of families that are in the same situation. Whenever the days after the tornado, and we ended Milwaukee, it's almost reminded me of COVID again, had flashbacks. But part of our task as supervision was those days right after the tornado when they really didn't know if we were going to go back to school, what it was. I had to sit down and determine how many kids were affected. Between 192 and 75, 109 kids lived in there. That's pretty much 2 bus routes that are gone. There at Wine Pine, the Sunshine Hills, Westland Estates, Philpott Road, a lot of kids affected in that area. And then as you keep working your way over toward the airport, and then on over into the park, and even over into Crooked Creek. Didn't hear a lot about that over in there, but there was homes destroyed and families affected there. We're likely to have to add a trip inside the park. We still have a lot of families that's living in campers in the campground. Just making you aware of some things. Our drivers on the Wine Pine routes, they're going to be driving right through that every day because there's still families in there. There's still kids in there. So just be aware of those things, you Wine Pine drivers. A lot of these kids are going to come back and you're going to see a lot of that emotion come up, and you're going to have kids that's on the bus you're picking up at the park. You're going to have kids, those conversations are going to be had because those kids, they got to come back to the teachers, but they never got to come back with their friends. So you're going to hear these conversations on the bus. Even people that wasn't affected, that's still going to be part of it. So just be aware of that. Routing changes, not going to be a lot of routing changes. We're still going to run buses through where we ran. We're going to have drivers running right through the heart of the worst, most destructive areas. Just be aware of that. Let's just support each other and try to support our kids in that. And thank you for the professionalism that you displayed. We had, that night, we had bus drivers. I received a call. I got on the phone, had a lot of our bus drivers responded without question and came in to start hauling victims. And we continue to do that for the next 2 or 3 days, shuttling people. So thank you for that. I'm not going to try to mention names because I'll miss one and I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But I really appreciate your response to that. And I think it was the right thing for our school system to close school and not come back. It just wouldn't have been practical. So let's just pray for a better year. Let's pray that last year was tough. If you remember, we started off personally, transportation suffered pretty bad last year. We had the shooter. We lost Justin. We had the terrible weather through the winter and then the tornado. And we just had a bad year last year. And for those of you that pray, I just ask that you be in prayer that this year is a better year for us. It's tough. It's tough. I look forward to the coming year. I look forward to working with everybody this year. If you have problems, if you have an issue, I've tried to always make sure that you realize that you can come see me anytime. And I hope you feel that way because your problems are legitimate to me because I used to be sitting right out there and I understand it. So, any questions or comments about the potential new routes or the changes or the challenges that we will face starting this year? All right. Camera procedures, and I made notes from yesterday, so it's not in no particular order. Camera procedures are no different this year with your 403s. We'll talk about that a little bit, but stop arms, still let me know. Still call those in. Information, the more information you can give, the better. If it's just a blue pickup truck in front of Safelite Auto Glass, nobody hears that one, right? Nobody hears Safelite Auto Glass. I didn't get to make a model. Not picking on Henry or anything. You know. Front of the daycare on North 25, Glenview, North 25, some of the hot spots that we have. But there is also other places that we have those. And as I said yesterday, it's not for nothing. Those reports, I assemble that information, which I send in the copy of each video, and then also the log that has the driver name, your driver's license, because you're the complainant on there. The description of the vehicle, the location that it happened in, and the time. Those are taken by the sheriff's department, made a criminal complaint. They are sent a summons. They show up to court. They plead their case, whether either they plead guilty, which I don't send them in if it's not dead to rights, because I don't want the court system saying that guy just sends stuff up here frivolously, we're not going to pay attention to them. So if they're not a solid case, I don't send them. That's usually nothing to do with you. 99% of the time, that has to do with the camera. Low light situations, I can't read license plates. And low light even is up to 7:30 in the morning, remarkably. That doesn't mean, oh, Rob said if it's before 7:30, I'm not going to call it in. Don't do that. Call it in. It still goes in my statistics. I might be able to read the plate. Let me make that decision. But give me the information. Make and model is great. If you know that it's a Ford pickup truck, great. If you just know it's a blue truck, that's fine. Let me know where you're at so I can put this information on the log and it matches up with what the complaint is. And I'll do the rest. The other camera issues that we have, discipline. And I know this sounds kind of picky, and I don't mean it to sound that way. When you have a student discipline issue on the bus, and if you need camera footage to verify that, that's okay. But don't take it upon yourself to get on the radio. And here's why, because when we transmit on the radio, the whole school system hears that. Superintendents hear it. People that have scanners hear it. So don't say, you need to pull the video, there was some stuff going on there. Just give me a marker. Give Marshall a marker time, like you do. Please mark my cameras at such and such. That means to me and Marshall, if you tell me, Rob, mark my camera for 405, seat 12. Tomorrow, I expect to see a write-up on my desk, or Marshall expects to see a write-up on his desk, saying, Jimmy poked Sally in the eye. They sit in seat 12. He nor I have time to go through and decide what you're trying to tell us. We have to have that write-up. I don't have the time to sit and watch hour upon hour of video or minute upon minute of video in order to try to determine what you wanted. So if you ask for video, I need a write-up. Then I'll marry it together and we'll move on from there. So just do that. Principals will call and ask for video based off of a write-up, but always bring the write-up in. So questions about video and how we'll handle that. Of course, stop arm violations, I'll cover that, and I'll still have Tammy. She'll be retrieving video for us, just like she did last year. Taylor's going to continue to work on cameras. Those cameras are not perfect. They mess up. They're out in the environment. You know, they're hanging off the side of the bus. They get all of the weather. And I'm not trying to make excuses. It just is what it is. They're far better than the ones that we had before, aren't they? because they didn't exist before, right? So we have something now instead of having nothing. So, and by the vast majority, I usually have usable video. So don't be discouraged if you call and say, hey, Rob, what'd you find out on that one? And I say, I didn't get good video. It just happens. So just continue to bring that in. Any comments or questions on that? All right, as Dee Dee mentioned, it appears that 192 is very near complete. Hallelujah for that. Some things just to be reminded of. There are still spaces on 192 where there is unprotected left-hand turns. Coming up 192, you can turn, if you're heading toward Walmart, you can turn into Dairy Queen unprotected. And there was another one, one in particular we need to be aware of, across from Kohl's. You can turn, if you're coming from the interstate toward South High, you can turn left over to the Shell station and where PetSmart or PetSense, which is it? The pet store. You can make an unprotected left-hand turn there. So just be aware of that. There is that third lane now. Some of it is a dedicated turning lane, like the one that I made mention yesterday about if you're coming out for Wine Pine, that you still have the yield sign, you have that third lane which turns into a right turn only lane just past Harbor Freight. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to yield, look, because there's still that third lane that comes through there, but it should reduce the amount of time that we're sitting there waiting to pull out. So that's going to be a plus. And the traffic changes. And you guys know, and just be reminded of this, I don't know how come school, though we have a lot of people that drive, a lot of employees, and a lot of parents, all of that combined, the traffic is going to increase 10 times what it is today. So just be aware that those new patterns are new for everybody. So just pay attention to what's going on. One in particular is up here at Don Franklin, and we discussed this yesterday. And I seen it again yesterday when I was leaving. Okay, so I was pulling out to go up to the red light to turn left to go home, and there was a red Chevrolet truck pulled across the right turn lane wanting to go into the left turn lane, blocking that traffic. We're always going to yield, always going to yield. That everybody else, there was a couple of cars behind them, they stayed at the stop sign. The truck wasn't going to wait, and they didn't. So yield. Let's not have an accident. Let's not try to be the big yellow bully. Just let them go, okay? So just be aware that we're going to have instances like that on 192. Now, down at exit 29, when I was through there Saturday, it looked like all that was needed was the approaches to be done. So you Kiwi folks, it should be a much smoother trip to get up and get onto the interstate. But again, there's an added extra lane there. So just be aware of that and make sure that that far left lane eventually turns into the turning lane when you're coming up by Love's there. And most of you guys live in Kiwi, so you already know this. But when you're coming up by Love's, that far left lane is now a turning lane where it turns into the turning lane to get onto 75. So that's where I would go instead of trying to switch lanes in the middle. Try to just keep your lane changes to a minimum for safety's sake on that. Oh. Gotcha. And that's something I didn't say that I said. And it was a little confusing. So thank you for bringing that up. And what I said yesterday confused some people, so I'll revisit that. I talked about no more shooting the gaps at the yellow lights, turning left. We have a turning lane, a dedicated turning light at Don Franklin. There's no need to shoot the gap anymore like we used to do in front of the tobacco store, where it was just flashing. where you would pull up, and here's what I'm talking about. I have the stop line, flashing light, traffic coming. I'll never get across from here. I'm going to pull up into the intersection and wait for the red light to turn red and stop traffic, and I'm going to shoot the gap and go on. That we don't do anymore. Now, you're sitting there at the light and it's yellow, and you see that there's no traffic coming, and you can, in one motion, pull out and go across? Absolutely, that's the law. That's legal to do. But I don't want us sitting in the middle of the intersection waiting for the red light to stop the traffic so that I can complete my turn. That's what I'm talking about, shooting the gap. That I don't want to see. There's no need for it because we've got that traffic light. And to be perfectly honest with you, that was a point that we brought up to the highway department in the very first meetings. I brought that specific thing up. I said, we have to have a turning light for that lane. And I explained exactly what we're doing. Thankfully, they put a light in. So just be aware of that. We do have a new repeater for the radio. They put in, this summer, we put in a new antenna, all new coax, a new repeater. So everything as far as our transmit and receive is brand new equipment up there. So it's working at maximum capacity and it's doing really well. There is some differences. The beep that you used to hear on the radio when you keyed up your mic and let off your mic does not exist anymore. So you'll have to be aware, like we had talked about. John did an excellent job yesterday on communication, radio communication. Key up your mic, listen first, make sure you're not interrupting a conversation. Key that mic up, pause just a second, talk, and let off. You're not going to get that beep coming back. So just be aware that it's different. It's not eliminated every dead spot in the county, but it's eliminated a lot. And it's much better, much clearer communication. So that's certainly good news and good upgrade on that. And then one thing that I made a note on from Dee Dee, she's talking about harnesses, and I thought, well, it'd be just a good question to ask. What's the rule about putting a kid in a harness as far as the placement of the harness in the bus? Anybody want to gander that that's not a trainer? Why? Why? That's right. Keep telling us, James. Partly true. So the preferred place for a harness placement on a school bus is the seat right in front of the emergency exit. James did point out something so the kids in the back didn't mess with it, and that is true, but that's not the whole thing. Mechanics not supposed to answer those questions. So what you're doing, you're strapping these kids into these seats. Our seats are not designed to stop a child from moving forward. The way they're designed is the child behind goes into the seat in front of him and it's padded, and the other kids do subsequently. But when we have a kid harnessed onto a seat, then that doubles the load of the seat, okay, in an accident. And when you double the load, you have the load of the child sitting in the seat that's in the harness and the load of the child behind them, and that will cause a seat failure. That's why the preferred. Now, if for whatever reason, let's say you have 3 kids in a harness. Let's use that scenario. And we can't put all 3 of them in that seat. What would be the safest thing to do for the 3rd child in a harness? Well, no one can be, I think the rule says that the seat behind them can't be occupied. So what happens there is if you happen to have a 3rd harness that's going in another seat, that kills the seat behind the child. And we want all harnesses from the emergency door forward. So just be aware of that and the why. And I think now that I explained the why, you understand about placement. Not likely that that's going to be a scenario, but if it is, certainly come to Dee Dee, Mark, any of us will be happy to assist in that. So any questions or comments? Any questions about anything we've covered up to this point in the training? All right. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take 15 and come back and say, hold up. Whoa, camel. You all are fat. I ain't. John. Oh, yes, we did have Faith that came in yesterday. Faith Holt, provider, and that's something else I need to cover real quick before I turn you loose or I'll forget it. Law says the superintendent or their designee shall designate a medical provider to provide all DOT physicals. We have designated Faith Holt, who comes to the shop, DOT physicals and dog patch. Those are the only two providers that we will accept a physical from. She came and went over, had an excellent presentation. John has some handouts. If you were not here yesterday and didn't get that, see John for those handouts on that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask Dave or myself, Pat, any of the training staff about DOT physicals, which we covered. They did a great job on that yesterday. But listen, if you have a question, I want you to be clear on any subject. If I don't have the answer, I'll get you the answer on those. Anything else? All right, let's be back in here at 11:25, and we'll be ready for Operation Lifesaver.